Okay, we're back on live.
Dave, are we up? I'm just telling Luther what's going on. Did I just text all that crap to him and then I accidentally deleted it. I just sent him a long text telling him everything was going on and somehow deleted it before it's sent. Are we up?
Yeah, I guess.
So do we have anybody on?
Dave says it says it's mine.
Is this Dave's fault?
We've never had this many problems, and I was expecting this one to be our smoothest. I worked really hard on this one. That's what's so frustrating.
Did you see my picture joke?
And I gotta mute that.
So what am I doing?
Okay, Paul Morrison says we're back on, so go ahead.
Okay. So the problem seems to be the way we're trying to connect with Danny. Every time Frick tries to do it, it kicks us off. So we're going to have to. Can we get him on any other way?
Yeah,
Just audio?
I need to find a cord for my phone, and then we can link my phone through. But
So
we're gonna have to figure that out. I'll have to call my wife.
okay. So I can go. I can continue.
Yeah, you can continue.
All right. Let's wrap this part up real quick so we can get back to working on here. So I just want to show you the last couple of things. Where did we end off? Any idea?
I'll call her soon.
Ask Super Dave. Tell me if we talked about the wood hinge on here, only to compete with your duck hinge. Is he going to tell you?
Dave, where did we finish last?
It's not my memory. It's I don't know when we cut off.
Where did we finish?
Did we talk about the wood hinge? Did we talk about the little drawers on the inside? Drawers on the inside? Okay.
Asking Dave about remembering something.
I was asking Dave, remember something? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right.
About people to be
Don't mess around with TBI. So the last part to do on this is going to be the upper unit that we are going to start working on Monday. I'll finish that drawer off camera. So if you're interested and you want something to do and follow along with, join us. Happy to have you. If you're a combat wounded veteran, now it's $325 a year if you want to be a full member, which gives you access to the hand tool library and all of the stuff we're doing in the hand tool power tool up to right now in 3 episodes every week. And then it goes down from there. You can be a monthly, whatever. But if you're a combat wounded veteran, we give this to you as a gift. All you have to do is just email us, and we'll take care of it. Email me, Rob@RobCosman.com, and I'll pass it on to Jake so it gets done. Okay? Good?
So they were saying that it stopped when you were talking about the hinge.
So we didn't get to talk about the inside little drawers?
Well, someone said they saw the drawers.
Yeah, Dave did. Can I continue?
Yeah, continue. I'll try
right.
and figure out the Danny thing.
All right. If we can get Danny on, we'll bring him on. I'm just going to go ahead and finish. So now it's back to deciding which of these 2 pieces we like the most. I think I'll put this on the top, which means I need to plane this section and get it finished. Not that it matters a whole lot. Oh, I haven't cut this down, have I? Yes, I did. This is 16. So lock that in the bench. Knock it. No, wait a minute. That's up too high. Just knock it down so that it's laying flat. A little bit of wax on the sole. Whoops, that was a little heavier than I should have been, but I got to get rid of these heavy mill marks anyway, so I don't mind having it a little heavier than normal. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about when you're doing this. All the weight is right here. Engage the board so that part of the blade is hanging over the edge so that you don't leave a strip here unplaned. A little bit of an angle on the plane. Come back here and feel for the overlap mark, which is right there. A little bit of the blade is hanging over the part we just did. Straight ahead. Come back here. Remember, all the weight is right here so that as I start, I'm not drooping down. At this point, I'm pushing down like this. And as I get toward the end, I back off On the front knob, more weight here so that it doesn't drop off the end. And that way you're going to do the best you can to keep the board nice and flat.
Do we know when the wax will be ready to sell?
Oh yeah, weren't they supposed to be here last week?
Could be here as early as Friday.
Possibly this week. Now I'm going to pull that blade in a little more. I'm feeling to make sure there's no overlap. I tend to pull the shaving out at the end for two reasons. Number one, I don't want it getting sucked back underneath the plane when I withdraw the plane. Then you got to stop and scrape it off. And number two, see number one. Now I pull the blade in a little bit so I can get a little finer cut. Pull the blade in a little bit more. I still feel some faint plane tracks. Okay. Now we will plane up that end just because it's easier to see your marks, although we don't that doesn't even really apply anymore because we mark it differently, but just to make sure that that's nice and square. This is the edge that I ripped, so I'll run the plane along there. Now, when you're doing this, remember that you cannot square this edge to that end under this setup. There's not enough surface area here compared to this. So all I'm doing right now is I'm using the shooting board to prevent the board from sliding forward as I push. I'm using the sole of the plane to make this straight, so I'm pushing directly across, but I'm using the shooting board to actually keep it square in this direction. So watch my left hand move right along so that I'm pushing into the blade, into the sole of the plane, so that I end up with a nice straight edge. And then we'll come in, and I'm going to use the same side to square from, which is this one. First thing I must do is cut my little chamfer, flip it over. Okay. Now, almost back to where we started. And that's my setting. So we'll scribe the two faces. How many folks did we manage to get back?
180? No, 212.
You got another nick in that blade.
Yeah, I know. I actually, you know what? I never did quite get rid of it. There's still a little bit left. Okay, so if you want to be in the draw tonight for any of those things we mentioned, you need to do what, Frick? Focus on him and he tells them.
Well, I have it displayed in the corner. All you have to do is go to draw.RobCosman.com. There's a 3-question form on there. And you just put in your name, your location, and your email address, and you're automatically entered. And everybody can enter. It doesn't require a donation, but, of course, donations to the Purple Heart Project are greatly appreciated. And we've had quite a few people sign up for the draw already. We have 221 people on that list already, so
Good.
It's working well.
Now, I also have to, Colonel Luther Sheely works tirelessly at this. Yeah, I'm dead serious. And he puts together our newsletter. Jake and I do the easy part. He does the hard part. If you would like another source of great information, every month it always has a topic. Last month was lap joints. This month is cutting small dovetails, and believe it or not, it's a lot more difficult than large ones. So if you would like more information, every month we come out with a newsletter. There's always a written article and at least 1 or 2 videos that are specific to that topic, and we usually advertise one product. So go to our website, actually, no, what's the thing? Yeah, you know.
I don't know.
They get on the newsletter. They just have to type something in. They just have to text something.
But I don't remember what it is, and it's only applicable in
Well, they're all in the U.S. Most of them. Luther, if you heard me, send us that information. Otherwise, you can just go to our website at the bottom of any page where it says, what's it say? Holy smokes, I got a challenge here. What does it say, Jake? Sign up newsletter. Okay. So back to this. Here's the problem. How are we going to offset this?
You need to have that same angle cut. You need to be cutting that same angle on this end, and that will give you something to reference.
Yeah, but you know what the problem with that is? That on an angle, it's not going to push it the same amount.
Why not? If it's two flats.
Is it or isn't it?
If it's two flats, it will.
I don't think it does, Jake. Tell me, have somebody tell me if I'm wrong. So, if anybody knows the process of offsetting by the thickness of one saw blade, if it's square, I understand it to work. But if it's on an angle, is it going to push it over the same amount? And that's the part I don't know. So what I'm thinking of doing is flattening this off just a little bit so that we can use that the exact same way we would normally do it. And if somebody has some valuable information there, just speak up, please. In the meantime, I'm going to go in here.
Don't think.
No, I think if you're on an angle,
Okay. I don't think you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean. If I cut that on the same angle, then I should be able to set this on here like that and move it over. But I don't think it's going to move at the same amount.
Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't that move it over? If it revealed on this end grain the thickness of one saw curve, why wouldn't it be moving it over the amount that you want?
Maybe it would. Let's try it. So here's what we've got to do. We've got to go in here and we've got to cut this. I'll just take it over the table saw and rip it.
Wait, use a knife. So you get a fine line.
Well, I got to be able to see it. Do you remember what that angle was?
I thought it was no.
I'll use my PEC protractor. Where do you get that, Jake?
Same place you did on the other
10, 20, 30. 30 degrees. Okay, so if we do this one, although we're going to work from the same one, we can do the same thing over on there. And I don't see any reason why that's going to change anything, so we'll go ahead and do it. Solve it, Frick?
Well, what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to get, I know this sounds a little,
Huh?
I know this sounds a little ghetto, so to speak, but we're just going to have to get Jake to focus in on my phone.
Phone?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. We do ghetto. So I want to cut off right at the point. Tell me when you're ready for them. I don't want to miss that. Now here's the problem. That has a tendency to slide underneath there. So what have we got, Jake? That piece there appears to be the same thickness. So what I'm going to do is lay that piece there and that piece right here. Set this on. Now what it does, it lifts this up so that my point is running up here, not sliding underneath the fence. I don't know where the rocks came from. Is anybody here from George tonight? I don't know.
George? I haven't been monitoring the chat as much as I should. Luther's on there.
Super Dave hasn't said anything. And that is out of the ordinary for him.
But he was locked in the chicken coop, wasn't he?
No, that's his shop.
Oh, the lock's on the outside. Trying to get this thing so that it's flush with the top of the plane. Okay. Now this is a total screw up. It's Jake's fault. So here's the idea. Take our saw. Rex, do me a favor. Go get me a dovetail saw in the box. A Cosmanized marking gauge. A dovetail marker. And a dovetail marking knife with a sawtooth blade, please. Okay. So I'm going to move that over. Now that should be a saw curve. I just for some reason this is not sitting right with me.
Now, this piece on the bottom side is not. The board isn't the same thickness.
No. I don't want to just wing this, so I'm going to go in here using my calipers. That's got to be. Yeah, I don't need to check that. I know how far over that is. I don't know. I can't even put into words why I'm worrying about this, but something just doesn't smell right. Let's see. So we moved the tailboard to the left. We marked to the right. So that's this side. Now this is where I screwed up when because this is at a steeper angle. So I got to make sure I stay tight to the tail, which means I'm pushing the knife purposely over. You really have to have, in order to do this successfully, you almost have to have that rabbet in there. Secure this so that it does not slip when you're doing this, meaning lots of pressure here. Now, we got to go over here. Set this down. I don't want that to hit it and knock it. Slide that over. Okay, so now we've moved the tailboard to my right, so we're going to go to the left side of each tail. How's our audience, Frick?
We're in the mid 300s.
The diehards. Okay. Now, is Rex missing something?
Yep.
Okay. Take that off. There's our marks. Now, we'll go in and cut these. Where's my dovetail marker? Pencil. So I'm going to come in here. Now, I've got some little sawing burr. What do I normally take that off with?
Usually you square.
That's what I'm missing.
2 inch.
Just come in here and move that so that I can lay my dovetail marker. Okay, remember, so this is waste, this is waste, this is waste, 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 waste. Transfer it down here as well. So I want to keep this piece. So I'm going to keep my line on that side of the curve. And on this one, I'll keep it on the opposite side of the curve. And that'll go back and forth as we go down the line. Got Danny?
Yeah, that's Danny.
Let's do it.
try and do this.
Tell me when you're ready.
So what I'm going to do is since he's on my phone here, I'm going to just put the speaker near my mic, and you can look at him and talk to him if you want to.
Okay.
Give me a mic check there, Danny, if you can.
Stab myself.
All right, how we sitting it down here?
Yeah, we can hear you. So Jake, you'll have to come over with
Yep.
the camera.
Yeah, you probably can't see, but I've got Felix with me.
Whoa. Dave just jumped. Okay, let's go over here. So I've already given the introduction. There's one of Danny's daughters. He has twin girls that are 9, and he's got a...
Yep, peek up there. That's Mila. Yeah.
Hi, Mila.
Say hi.
All right. You're cute.
And this is Felix.
That's Felix. Now, Dave and Felix have a special relationship. We'll let you... Where's Stinker?
Go get David. He was here. He just he kind of timed out.
Tired of waiting? Would you mind modeling
Yeah.
that? Would you mind modeling that shirt?
I would not mind at all.
Turn around. Wood is good. I forgot to tell you, you can buy a shirt tonight to help us promote our project. And we have another one as well that's Wood doing good. Danny, you take over. I already told you what I want, the message I want you to portray, so have at it, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So I heard, I heard you pitch the Purple Heart Project earlier as far as what it is. So I'm not going to kind of reiterate what the program is. You can go on the website, and Rob shouts it out every time. As far as the specs, I'll say of the program itself. But I wrote down a couple quick notes on why it matters for us. I'm a combat wounded vet. This is Stinker. Rob, say hi,
Hey.
Stinker.
Oh,
There you go. Okay, so woodworking is therapeutic. If you don't know, so if you have an interest in woodworking, and it is a therapeutic thing. Hang on, I got the other one. Say hi, Ellie.
Hi.
All right, guys, I got to do this intro. Stinker, quiet. All right, so woodworking is a therapeutic thing. Probably about 2 years ago, I was pretty non-functional. PTSD started hitting me pretty hard. I'm an active duty guy. I'm actually in the process of getting out, but I was really, really heavy into everything. And then it hit me pretty hard. I was so depressed, I didn't want to go in the basement and even woodwork. Now, I've been woodworking for probably about 20 years. But to actually get down to the basement, it wasn't happening for me. Well, I did. And then I went to the woodcraft store and discovered the name Rob Cosman. Sorry, Rob, I hadn't heard of you prior to 2 years ago. As I started going down the rabbit hole of watching his videos, as most of you probably do, and if you haven't, you will, I started gaining knowledge and all that stuff, but then I stumbled on the Purple Heart Project. And when I looked it up and I heard that it was a program for combat wounded vets, I started investigating, and I saw that there were a couple stipulations, and this is really kind of what I wanted to hit on. Was the stipulation is PTSD, anxiety, obviously Purple Heart, and then TBI. I'm not a Purple Heart recipient, luckily, thank goodness. And I started measuring myself against other people, saying, well, what I have is, I've been dealing with it. I don't want to talk to anybody about it. It's something I'm struggling with. And then I start thinking about guys that I know who have been killed, or guys who have permanent issues. And I start weighing myself against those guys. And what I realized was that if it wasn't good enough for Rob, it wouldn't be a prerequisite for the course. That's saying PTSD. And then you start questioning yourself, well, how do you measure your PTSD against somebody else's? Are my experiences and this and that. But I'll say this. I said that, why not? Why not me? And I'll give it a try. So I signed up, and it actually took me 3 times to get in, because there were people with Purple Hearts who needed to get in, and thank goodness that they were able to do that. And I love that that's the way the program works. But the program is not a sweepstakes. I kind of say that a lot of times. Like, this isn't whether or not you're good enough to get in. You just have to tell them, what your story is, because they have to vet people. Because unfortunately, they've had people try to cheat and get in, and it worked once. So now they have to make sure that you are what you say you are. When you get there, I was the only active duty guy there, so I'm following with a bunch of other vets who, have been out for a while. So it really put into perspective for me. A lot of the guys that were in the course with me, they came back and they said, look, man, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't know that when you get out, a lot of this stuff that happened while you're in starts to come back to you, and you start dealing with it. And I didn't think about that. Well, none of us do. I know you probably didn't when you guys were in. But you're probably in a position that I'm talking about now that I'm not even experiencing yet, where you've gotten out, you're no longer surrounded by like-minded people. Civilians aren't even speaking the same language as you, so it's hard to talk to them in the first place, much less try to relate to them on things that you're dealing with, because they're not going to even begin to understand. So when you come to this program, you then are in a kind of a different space where everybody's there for the same purpose, to include 6 civilians, and you guys are unified with this thing called woodworking. So you show up day one, and they pick you up, and he gives you $3,000 worth of hand tools, and he says, hey, these are your new tools, let me show you how to use them. So you're there for a purpose, which allows you to focus on something. And then what you find is you're realizing that you're back in like-minded company with people who probably have maybe been through stuff worse than you. But it's not like that. You start relating to these people, and by the second or third day, you transition from figuring out how to do this dovetail to actually start knowing each other, and you really unfold and unfurl. Not to mention the civilians who are going there are learning about something that they have no idea what you've gone through. They have no idea what I've done. And so for them, they're paying for this program called the hand tool woodworking, training the hand. And they end up showing it up to this program, and they're like sideswiped by this incredible experience where there's real stuff going on. It's like a spiritual level of things. So, roundabout way of saying, why do you care? I made a list. Woodworking is therapeutic. Rob gives you the tools and the skills. Kevin Burris said it, that you can go home after this is all done, and you can continue that therapy while you're at home. And it's something else when you go in the basement and 6 hours goes by and you realize that you can breathe, and you haven't had to catch your breath in hours, and then all that time's gone by, and he gives you the skills to do it on your own. So if you're watching and you're somebody who is preparing to donate, I'm a guy on a single Army paycheck, and like I said, I was non-functional for a while, and the ability to have this program pay for my trip, it changed my life. And I thought that it would, but I had no idea. So if you're a vet and you're curious as to if this is something you want to try out, don't be curious, just do it. Fill it out. These guys are going to take your information. They're going to call you personally. Everybody who's in that room right now are the people who are fielding these calls and emails. There's no team there that's fielding all this stuff. So it's not some big operation. There's no like national level, staff that's making this happen. It is these group of people who care so much and are affected so much by what it does for us, that they are taking the time out of their lives to do this for no benefit to themselves other than the fact that they know that this is what it's doing for us. I mean, I could spend an hour talking about this. So that's kind of it. If you want to ask me any questions, I'm happy to answer. But I hope I did a good job introducing the Purple Heart Project. It changed my life. I will always do everything I can to support it, and I suggest you guys do the same. It's really, really mind blowing. So there it is.
Thank you, brother.
I see Jake. He's just like,
Yeah,
shut up, Dan.
I'm keeping him from dropping the camera. Thank you, Dan.
Is it over?
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right.
We're gonna have a different one every week, and I think you're gonna start coming on here, not to watch the woodworking. You're gonna want to see the interviews with these guys.
We're gonna
And-
see how many different methods of bringing them on we can use.
I like
Yeah.
I like that one. It worked fine. It's
Yeah,
easy.
it did. Yeah. No. Instead of getting too high tech, I'm just leveling this so that I can
Do you want to
make
show
nice
off the
plumb
prize?
cuts. Okay, so here's what we're drawing for tonight. Oh, give me some DVDs. Or, they're already here. So, Charlie, and Charlie is one of the biggest contributors we have to this program. Charlie is a vet himself, Purple Heart recipient a few times over, Vietnam vet, and still working. And Charlie is always the first to donate. Charlie suggested, he said, Rob, I think this is what you suggested, Charlie. Why don't you give away a mini dovetail kit? And I said, you know what, that sounds like a great idea. So in this box, trust me, in this box, because it says right on the end, there's a dovetail saw, brand new. There's your marking gauge. There's your dovetail marker. And there's your dovetail marking knife with a sawtooth blade that we're using. So those are the main ingredients that you need in order to cut incredible dovetails. And we will give that to some lucky person, and we'll give away 3 of these copies, and that's a $40 DVD, so that's a good gift. And if you want to have a close look at what kind of dovetails you can do, this is Philip Gustafson, first ever dovetail in our first class, and this is Marshall Rommel. And if Jake wants to close in on that, you'll see impressive dovetails. Speaking of which, let's do some impressive dovetails. How's our time? Oh shoot. Well, we're going to do, you know what? We're not in a hurry. We're enjoying this. And thank you, Dan. That was fantastic. I enjoy hearing that. Okay, so I've got my start here. I just have to put the saw in the kerf and just finish the cut down to the bottom. Now, I want my light on this side, this is the piece I'm keeping, right? So I want to illuminate that side of the sawing. Now, big advantage to a pistol grip saw is every time you pick it up, it will register in your hand the exact same way.
Earlier, someone mentioned if you'd recommend a 10-inch gent saw.
Ah,
And Luther answered the question. But
Luther did. Well, I'm gonna do a demonstration. Where's the other? Where is the other cart like that? Because I think that's where it is. And then instead of having to use a chisel or a screwdriver, I can actually use the real thing. Here it is, right here. Okay. So here's the difference. And if you're seriously interested in dovetails, then this is going to be important. I'm not just trying to sell you a saw. If you have a gent saw, round handle, and in a dark room I put that in your hand, you would have no idea which way the blade is facing because there is no shape or there is no registration point. Okay? In a dark room, as soon as I put that in your hand, you'll know exactly where the blade is. So you will eventually, believe it or not, and it doesn't take forever, Jake, pay attention. It doesn't take forever to get to a point where it'll register, and that's 0, and that's 10 degrees to that side, and that's 10 degrees to that side. And you don't have to think about it anymore. So every time you pick it up, that gets reinforced. Now, if you're wondering, why do we use the exact same handle on the crosscut saw, on the medium tenon, on the bench crosscut, which is missing, on the regular size tenon? Because you benefit from that same feel every time you pick it up, and you become very proficient with your sawing. Just ask Super Dave. down to the line and stop. I didn't get to the line that one. Now, I'll reposition my lamp, and this is the reason why I do all of one side before I switch and do the other, because I'm not having to flip the lamp around 50 times.
Super Dave would like to point out that his dovetails have improved.
Well, we'd like to see
They're
those.
now paint grade.
Up from cement, form, concrete form grade. That's awesome, Soup. That's what makes me happy when you see that. Can you hone in on that? Focus in on that. When your saw kerf is parallel, perfectly parallel to the line you drew. And by the way, I try not to look at the line because I find if I look at the line, I don't do it as well as if I just do it from feel. This requires a very light touch. That's not a lot of kerf to get started, but at least it is the exact kerf. So put your saw in there. If you overpower it, you're going to slide one way or the other without even knowing it. If you just nice and easy. So let me address that issue. Now, some people get lucky. I mean, if you look at, come here, Jake, please. Get really close on Philip's. How close can you zoom in on that? Imagine that being your first dovetail. Raise your hand if you'd be excited if that was what your first dovetail looked like. How many are raising their hand? I hope everybody. Okay. Some guys get lucky and they've got it right out. How old was Philip? Was 30?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other guys are going to struggle a little bit. So here's what happens. When you first start doing this, all the control is really back up in here. But what you lack up in here, when you initially start, you overcompensate by squeezing the life out of that thing. And you have to learn to relax your hand. When I'm holding this saw, I'm holding it, and the guys that have been around me in my class have seen, I'm just preventing it from dropping on the floor. Let this saw do its thing. My job is to aim it, start it on the angle I want, and then let the saw do its thing, and it will give you a laser straight cut. Laser straight cuts produce nice, flat, smooth surfaces that become half of a great glue joint. And you have to practice a little bit. Keep reminding yourself, relax, relax, relax. Now, you also need to get good technique. And good technique is when you saw so that you can take a line and start here and go through your wrist, your elbow, right up to your shoulder. So you want your elbow dropping right beneath your shoulder, which means you have to lean over a little bit. I always have a nice wide stance so that I'm very stable, and I always make it a 3-point stance by holding the board with my opposite hand and not letting go. And then tip your body so that that falls underneath, and then like the piston on an old locomotive, you got nice, good sawing stroke. If your elbow's bending out here, it's going to be very difficult to get good at this. Any questions? I don't think I've answered a question yet. There's Lucy taking care of all of them. Oh my goodness. Did I cross the line on that? No, I guess not. It was just my eyesight. Now I can't see that very well, so I'm going to take a piece of masking tape, and I'm just going to put a piece of masking tape at the base, right on that baseline. There. The closer I saw to that line, the less I have to chisel. So remember, I didn't tell you about this, but when we set up this fret saw, you're restricted by the depth of the throat until you take a pair of pliers and give that blade a twist right there, about 30 degrees, and at the top. Now, in order to make a straight cut or horizontal cut, the frame has to sit up like this. And now you no longer have any restrictions. So when you're dropping it down in here, and what we're trying to be careful of is we don't want to scrape those sidewalls. This one doesn't matter, meaning this one right here. This one doesn't matter, but this one on this side does, because that's going to be half of a glue joint. If I try to force a blade that's too thick like a coping saw, I'm going to end up wrecking that nice flat wall. So I want to just, see, I lean my saw over so I can drop it right down in there. It'll fall right in, go to the bottom, come up off the bottom a little bit, and then if you turn the saw, it will no longer move. And that'll prevent it from dropping down when you start sawing. And then just lots of control. We use a very aggressive 12.5 teeth per inch skip tooth blade. Now I've got to pay attention to this line. That's why I'm swinging the saw around like this, so I don't end up cutting off half of that pin, in the process of finishing the cut. We tape every saw. We sell these saws. They're part of our kit. We tape them with hockey tape, just like you would tape a hockey stick, so that you can grip it. Drop it down, come up off the bottom, turn, and you'll be amazed at how difficult, or how many people have a difficult time using this saw. But you just have to, again, learn to relax. Not a race. Make sure you're cutting the right piece, the correct piece off. And remember that this opening is smaller than this opening. So you start here, you've got to swing around like this as you're making the cut and getting closer to that other end. Last one. How many folks have we got on?
430.
So most came back. I can't tell you how many dovetails I've cut, even in the last year. But I can tell you this. I get a thrill every time I do it. I love doing this. Absolutely love it. And the anticipation of planing it after it's glued up and seeing that come out just right turns my crank. Okay, I need a backup block. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chop this, and then we'll have to call it a night. We got to do our draw. And we'll pick this up next weekend. And yes, Angie, you will eventually get this wonderful bed desk. We will get it finished. I got to put a quick edge on this. I'm just looking at that and I see a little shiny spot. And if you can see a shiny spot, you shouldn't be able to see the edge. So a shiny spot means the edge is no longer a point. It's got a flat spot in it where it's been dulled. Get a burr, raise up a little bit higher, meaning the angle that I'm sharpening on the 16,000 grit stone. All right, I got to throw another sales pitch your way. I deal with folks on the phone every day. You bought a Ferrari, the last thing you should do is go buy corn gas. If you want to buy lovely planes and beautiful chisels that work extremely well, their performance will solely depend on what you have underneath the bench, meaning your sharpening station. Do not scrimp down here. You need the very best tools that you can get your hands on. They're easier to use, believe it or not, and they will produce an edge that you will never be left wanting something better. So, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call me if you want some advice. But the other nice things, too, is our website is full of instructional videos on every product telling you why I think that is the best choice. Now, I'm going to a little heavier mallet. So what I'm going to do, my marking gauge line, so critical that you have a good sharp marking gauge. I'll drag that chisel over until you hear it. It drops in. Now I only want to go down about halfway, and that'll become apparent shortly. Gotta love what these Jake makes these 17-degree chisels. Focus in on that, Jake. And 17-degree chisels with a really acute bevel will produce an edge or a cut edge on soft pine that is nothing short of fabulous. And I discovered that as a means of preventing that terrible fiber failure, I call it, that you typically get when you're dealing with soft woods. You want to make sure there's no debris underneath here because it'll leave a big old dent in your board. And the reason I'm angling it is so that I can follow the slope of the pin. That becomes easier to understand when we go to the other side. I prefer to keep my chisel plumb or nearly plumb, meaning no severe undercutting. And you always want to chop in this setup so that you can see plumb. If I was chopping this way, I have no idea where plumb is. But this way I can see it. And if you're a woodworker, you can tell. You can eyeball level or plumb close enough to be dangerous. Same with this. Whoops. This stuff is so soft I went down farther than I wanted to. Again, make sure there's no debris because the pounding will end up crushing or what? We'll plane that out. Okay, so there's a slope. There's a slope on this pin. So I'll move my chisel as close to it as I possibly can. Feel that it's engaged in that line and then angle so that I can follow the pin. And by doing that, I can eliminate what would otherwise be another step. It's great when this is sharp, and I don't mean the chisel, I mean the marking gauge, because you will hear the chisel drop into it. And then you're not having to second guess whether or not your chisel's in the right spot. And I have several different techniques for this. The one I happen to be doing, and I have no idea why I switch back and forth, but the one I'm doing right now, I'm holding the chisel by the handle, which, by the way, Ahmed made that, and that is Macassar ebony, Jake. Beautiful handles. I'm holding the chisel like this, which is comfortable. I've got my other hand anchored here. I use my thumb to just push that across until it falls into that gauge line. And if you're wondering why I always go one side to the other and then in the middle, I'll show you. Okay, so you make your first chop right here. If I do this next, and when I come to do the last one, if I don't have a full cut, then the pressure from the waist pushing on the bevel is going to be uneven. It's going to be more on this side than this side. And it makes your chisel want to twist like that and then undercut over here. So what I prefer to do, now I'm going to have to purposely prevent that from occurring. Oh, it's sharp and I grab the end of it. So here's what I do. Had a full cut right there. Equal pressure from the waist touching the bevel all the way. Then I come over here. Equal pressure. Oh, I should have gone. Yep. Equal pressure all along the chisel. And now in the middle, it's not a full width piece, but I will put it right in the middle of the chisel so that equals out the pressure. And again, I don't end up having the chisel want to twist one way or the other because of unequal pressure from the waist acting on the bevel of the chisel. All right, just give me enough time to finish this off. Always work front to back, or in this case, outside to inside. Make sure that there's no bumps left. None of this material in the middle is of any consequence when it comes to gluing. This is all end grain. The only thing I want to make sure is that it's flat. Slightly undercut or flat, but not a bump. If there's a bump, then you're going to come and get into trouble when you assemble your joint because it's going to get hung up on the bump before it closes. Now, remember the sloping I did when I was chiseling? See, I cleaned it all up. There's just a little bit right there. I got to move my head over, Jake. The camera's in the way.
This is how you can see best the results.
Yes,
From the
yes.
17 degree.
17-degree chisel. Order them tonight. Jake loves standing there in front of the grinder making them. See that? I didn't have to do anything to it. Now, let's check this one before we leave. That one's actually pretty clean too. Just a little bit of dust to get rid of. Now this one I left a chunk. So here's what I'm going to do. If I just start wailing away on that, it's eventually going to break through and I risk taking a piece out of there. So I'm going to hold the chisel very firmly with my left hand, anchored against the front. I can now force it with my right hand, applying lots of pressure, but it's all pressure that's under control. Okay, what do we see over here? A little bit right there. I'm rusty or else I shouldn't have had to do that on any of these. That one's clean. Now this one's going to need a little bit of work, probably because of that angle that I was unfamiliar with. So rather than try to pound right here, take out the whole thing, that requires a lot of pressure because if you've got a full width cut, the more force required, the less control you have. So what I'll do is I'll move out here. So I'm just using the corner of the chisel to cut a little bit at a time. Then it doesn't require near as much pressure. I have a lot more control, and I end up with good results. Okay? So that piece is ready to assemble. Next Saturday, we'll finish off this side. I was thinking about this today, and our hanger for our little drawer, we can't just fasten it on there because it's cross-grain construction. So we're going to have to cut a little dado in there somehow that will house that piece and hold it in position yet still allow it to move. So there's going to be a little bit of ingenuity maybe going into this. We'll come up with it. We'll walk you through the whole process. All right. And you've got a few minutes, you got a minute or so to make any final donations to the Purple Heart Project. I do want to tell you this. All of it goes to providing either airfare, hotels, meals, or tools for any one of 36 combat wounded vets that we bring in each year. Remind me to address the current situation. I'll tell you what else we do with the money. We use the money to fly Super Dave in, who works as our assistant. We use the money to fly in and take care of and feed them. Colonel Luther, I pay Jake. I can't expect my son to work for free 6 weeks. Actually, I should, but I don't.
No, you do expect.
I expect, but I don't. We have to pay Jake.
You don't require it.
Luther nor Dave nor I take any pay for what we do with the combat wounded vets. And I'm not knocking Jake. Jake's has a wife, and he has to be able to take care of his home. But he donates a ton of time as well and effort. What else do we spend the money on?
Delicious food to barbecue, obviously.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Food,
you did?
hotel.
Yeah.
Man, I said meals.
Can you mention real quick, Jack asked to mention the
Jack. Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
I'm just sorting the names for the draw, so we'll be ready in a second.
So just let me finish this topic. What else do I need to say about that? Oh, please donate directly through our website. If you go to YouTube, they take over 30%. And you can do it on our page. You go to RobCosman.com. On the top, on the toolbar on the top, on the left-hand side, Purple Heart, how can I help? And we've attached wood names to the various levels of donation. If you want to take care of a vet entirely, it's $3,500, and you can do that. We had a good customer in Missouri, Jake?
Yeah.
Missouri this week that sent me $3,500, said he wants to take care of a vet. I said, thank you very much. And we certainly appreciate it. And they do too. You know, you got it. You got some idea from Danny. They're all going to be like that. They'll all be different, but the appreciation is tremendous. These guys really understand whatever. Now, what Jack's talking about. I realized this just a few weeks ago that we bring these guys in. Some of them, I think of Dan the fireman, who had never done any woodworking, not hand tool, but never done any woodworking before. So we brought him in here, and we give him the tools, and we give him this experience. By the way, we're in the class. We're here from 8 in the morning until 11 at night for 6 days. And they get all excited. Now they go home, and they don't have a bench. And they're trying to cut dovetails. If you've tried cutting dovetails on a rickety anything, it's a nightmare. And I thought, oh my goodness, we can't let this happen. So we have put together a bench brigade. And what we are looking for are 36 volunteers who want to help. And they will each build a bench that they will then ship to the vet. We will find them a vet that comes to our class that happens to be closest to them. We will provide the vise and the bench dogs, which are the big expense. They will provide the materials for the bench and take responsibility of shipping it to the vet. And we will send you the video so that you can follow our instructions. We want this bench to be exactly like the benches that they worked on when they were here. And Jack Lane down in Texas has come on board as the guy that's, what do we call him, Jack?
The Brigadier General.
The Brigadier General, in charge of the brigade. And he is going to pick 6 other individuals that will be responsible for each will be responsible for a class, which is going to be 6 builders providing 6 benches to 6 combat wounded vets. We still need more volunteers. I want to go backwards. I want to help some of the guys that have been to our class. We've had 88, and provide those guys with a bench. So if you think you'd like to do this, by all means, get a hold of me ASAP, and we will put you in touch with Jack, and we'll start this process so that we can bring these guys everything they need. They tell me, I know nothing about this. I'm just doing this because teaching these guys woodworking seems to be a big help, so we keep doing it. I don't pretend to have any degree in psychology, but
Jack's in here too, so maybe he can just put his information in there, and
yeah,
they can contact him directly.
Workshops.
Pork chops? Oh, workshops, yes. So this coronavirus that's going around that's messing up everybody's lives.
Oh, just before you get there, Hardwood Grove just committed to building 5 benches. So that's Danny.
All right, Danny boy. Trying to one-up somebody. Actually, we had another guy the other day that committed 3, right? Yeah. That's great, Dan. And Dan will do it with a group of vets, too, so that'll be awesome. We've had to change our May class. I do not want to cancel a class on these guys. So we've had to change our May class, and we've moved it to the last week of August. Jake,
Full
you
week.
know, last full week
24
in
to
August.
29.
Which, by the way, we had 2 civilians sign up for that class. Some of the civilians in that May class were able to switch to August. One went to October. Do we have any spots available? Can you give me
We
an
have
update,
2
please?
in August.
So we still have 2 spots available in August for
End of
civilians.
August.
End of August, yes. Last week of August.
2 in October.
We have 2 in October,
And 1 spot opened up in July.
and 1 opened up in July. So if you would like to participate, you can go right on the site and do it. Okay, we done? Don't forget to order your new bench video. Don't forget to tell everyone you know about the Purple Heart Project, because sooner or later, somebody that hears about it is going to know a Danny Bell, and through some personal contact, the information will get to them. And then hopefully from there, we'll be able to encourage them to actually apply. Okay. Everybody who wants to be included in our, so we'll do the first 3 will be for the video, and number 4, do we put everybody's name back in?
Yeah, it'll be the same list.
Okay. All
All
right,
right,
you
I was
guys want to
just,
go ahead and do it?
Yeah, I was just checking for duplicates. All right, we're going to copy all these names. We are going to put them on here.
And thank you, Ken, for being on tonight and helping. Thank you, Super Dave, for being the awesomeness that you are. And thank you, Luther. You know how we feel about you.
And sorry for all the technical difficulties. We'll,
Yes. And thank you, Jack. And thank you, Ahmed. And I could go on and on. I better stop before I forget somebody that I shouldn't. Yeah. This has not been Frick's fault. We are going to find out if there's something we can do to make this. Do you think it was trying to make that connection with Danny?
It seemed to cut out when we were.
So we can blame
we were
Danny.
making well.
So it's Danny's fault.
Yeah.
You better make 10 benches, Dan.
All right, so we got everybody in there, and we are going to pick a random name now. This is for bench DVD number 1. Dave Carroll.
Where's Dave? Does it say where he's from? Never mind. We're out of time.
Yeah. All right, so Dave
We'll find
Carroll, video number 1 on DVD. Number 2.
Are you recording this, or do I need to?
Well, it'll be part of the video.
Okay.
Tad Bennett, winner number 2. Congratulations, Tad. And number 3 is Mike Stinn. And we have their locations.
Hey, I know Mike Stin. We just,
Mike won.
huh?
Mike bought a DVD.
Did he?
Oh. So I'll have to give him the plans then.
Yeah, we'll give him the plans.
The 3D
I
plans.
was just talking to Mike. So a little bit of a drum roll.
All right.
So this is for the dovetail starter kit.
And the winner is Patrick Hardy.
Congratulations, Patrick. I expect to see a picture of your dovetails before the middle of April. Want to make sure this saw is being used. All right, folks, so here's what we're doing next Saturday night, same time, same place. Tell your friends. We will post a YouTube video every day this week to help you with the boredom. If any of you are interested in joining our online workshop, you can actually go on. How do they see that, Jake, if they just want to go in and sample it first?
They can just go into it, and instead of signing up, there's a button that says "Still on the fence." Click here for a preview.
Yeah, if you haven't fallen off the fence yet, and you can go in and you can get to see the first one of every. Is that how it works? They get to watch the first episode? Okay. All right, folks, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy. Keep your distance. And we will see you next week.